Hello, welcome to Words You Need для нормально общающихся. If you're нормально общающийся, then your English is good enough for the things you do in everyday life. And often when people reach this нормально общающийся level, they find it hard to improve, to add new words to their vocabulary, to start speaking more fluently. Well, if that's you, this course will help you because it will give you the words you need to master, that you need to add to your active vocabulary if you want to get up to advanced level, if you want to reach C1. So, this is the 12th lesson in the course. We're doing words 551 to 600. And number 551 is Он осторожный инвестор. Let's switch on voice typing. He is a cautious investor. Cautious. Long O sound. It's a double. Cautious. 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 A cautious investor. If somebody is cautious, they don't like taking risks. They try to avoid risks. Here are some other nouns which we often use with cautious. We adopted a cautious approach. Осторожный подход. I have cautious optimism. So it's like I'm optimistic, but not too optimistic because I don't want to risk disappointment. Cautious optimism. We took a cautious step forward. A cautious step, trying to avoid risk. Cautious means trying to avoid risk. Действуйте осторожно. Proceed with caution. 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 Next word, 552. Судья назначил спорный пенальти. The referee awarded a controversial penalty. So the penalty was controversial. Let's look at some other controversial things. This is a useful word, and Russian speakers rarely know it, in my experience. It's a controversial issue. A controversial issue. Это спорная тема, спорный момент. What a controversial issue. It was a controversial decision. Спорное решение. He is a controversial figure. Он спорный человек. Trump is a controversial figure, we might say. He made some controversial comments. So, controversial. There's also a noun, a controversy, which you can use like skandal in Russian. There was a huge controversy. Большой скандал. Controversial, controversy. Okay, the next word. В этой коробке находятся хрупкие предметы. Хрупкие. This box contains fragile items. So, хрупкие, fragile. We can also find some collocations with хрупкие. The economy is in a fragile state. That's хрупкое состояние. There is a fragile peace. Like, not peace like that, but хрупкий мир or хрупкое перемирие, something like that. You can also talk about fragile ecosystems. So if something is fragile, it can easily be broken. Next. Мы почти на полпути к месту назначения. На полпути, there's a nice English word, halfway. We are nearly halfway to our destination. Or, oh, we're halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer. Bon Jovi might help you with that word. Halfway. Halfway. Next. Мы на полпути. The next one. 555. Он скрывает свою внутреннюю жизнь. he is secretive about his inner life. So, внутренняя жизнь is inner life. Now, it's interesting. There's a word inner and there's a word internal. And if we look at some collocations, you can see that although the meaning's the same, we use them in different contexts. So after inner, some common words are the inner city, his inner circle, inner workings, inner ear, inner life, inner voice. And if I look at internal, common collocations are internal revenue, internal affairs, internal investigation, internal security, internal conflict. So you can see that these internal words, they're all about organizations, учреждения, организации, that stuff, establishments. Inner is used for things related to everyday life. The inner city, my inner circle of friends, the inner workings of the company. I don't know, the inner ear. So there's inner and internal. Next, смотрите, что она делает, и повторяйте за ней. Watch what she does and do likewise. I like this word. Likewise. Likewise. You can use it if somebody says, I'm pleased to meet you. Likewise. Я тоже. I'm really looking forward to New Year. Likewise. Me too. And you can use it with verbs as well. If we put in here the verbs and then likewise, then we can see. So do likewise. They are likewise waiting to get their salary. It's another way to say also in this context. You should likewise take care on the road. You should also take care. So it can be a synonym for also, but there's this phrase, do likewise. Делай как она. Повторяйте за ней. The next one. Инфраструктура ухудшается без регулярного технического обслуживания. Infrastructure deteriorates. Try again. Infrastructure deteriorates without regular maintenance. That's quite a difficult sentence. It deteriorates without regular maintenance. You try it. Remember, actually, it's very important. You should be repeating all the phrases after me. You will get much more value out of the lesson if you repeat everything, because you need to train your mouth to work properly and train the connections between brain and tongue. So pronounce everything after me. Here we're talking about техническое обслуживание, maintenance. And there's a verb to maintain. Мы не можем поддерживать такой уровень расходов. We can't maintain this level of spending. So to maintain is to keep something at the same level. We can't keep spending at the same level. Here, we can't keep our infrastructure at this level if we don't maintain it. So maintenance is all about keeping something at the same level. So it's always поддерживать какой-то уровень. Keeping it at the same level. Maintaining something. The next word, I like this word. Она снова несет чушь. She's talking nonsense again. So I don't think Russian nonsense is exactly the same as English nonsense. I think our nonsense is, it's more like чушь. Fignia, if that's not too rude. She's talking nonsense. And the English version, of Russian, nonsense. You don't have long consonants in Russian, but we really like long consonants. She's talking nonsense. 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 I could even remove that. Nonsense. 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 Like that. Nonsense. Nonsense again. She's talking that's nonsense. It's nonsense. Чушь. Figня. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's rubbish. It's nonsense. All right, the next one. Она сообщила обновленную информацию о ведущемся расследовании. Ведущемся. She gave an update on the ongoing investigation. So the investigation is ongoing because it's going on at the moment. Let's look at some other nouns that are often used after ongoing. And the first one is the ongoing investigation. I cannot comment on the ongoing process. He is part of the ongoing debate on climate change. Ongoing research suggests that... Not I'm going. Ongoing. Ongoing. Который сейчас проводится. So, ongoing. Ongoing. It's going on at the moment. The next one, this is the last word in the first part of the lesson. Наш процесс отбора полностью прозрачен. Прозрачный, transparent. Our selection process is completely transparent. Transparent. Try to do a little pause before the p. Transparent. 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 What other things can be transparent? Transparent. If we're talking about прозрачность, you can talk about the picture has a transparent background. One. It was a transparent attempt to steal power. So it was, in this context, transparent attempt is нескрытая попытка. So not exactly прозрачный. Maybe прозрачный works in this context as well. It is made of transparent plastic. That is прозрачная пластика, I guess. So, transparent. Transparent, transparent. Transparent? Yeah, the stress is on the second syllable. Transparent, transparent. So, that is 10 words. Now is a good time to press pause, and I usually recommend that people don't try to learn more than 10 words per day. So, if you're really trying to learn all the words, I recommend that you press pause now, review the words. If you have access to the course, the full course on my website, do the tasks, then come back and watch the next part of the lesson. But if you're just watching this for some background English practice, stay with me and I'm going to talk about some more words. And on we go with the ongoing lesson. Мне было очень неловко, когда я столкнулся со своей бывшей в парке. I felt very awkward when I bumped into my ex-girlfriend in the park. Awkward, неловко. British people are professionals in awkwardness. We are very good at creating awkward situations, feeling awkward. There's just a lot of awkwardness between British people. We even have a thing we call the awkward turtle, which you can do it to try to defuse the awkward situation, the tension. Do the awkward turtle. Anyway, awkward is неловкая ситуация. Awkward situation is often used. What else? I'm in an awkward position. Неловкое положение. There was an awkward silence. That's when you need the awkward turtle, черепаха, when there's an awkward silence. Bring out The awkward turtle. Anyway, awkward. Awkward. There was an awkward pause. The same idea. Awkward. Awkwardness. Okay, the next one. На нем была повседневная рубашка. He was wearing a casual shirt. Casual. Casual. It's more or less 2 syllables. It's like 2 1/4 syllables. Casual. Casual. Casual shirt. More or less 2. He was wearing a casual shirt. What else can be casual? We have a lot of adjectives in today's lesson, so it's nice for finding collocations. Oh, the first one is casual sex. That means if sex is casual, then you're not in a committed relationship. It's like not serious. A casual conversation is like the opposite of a serious conversation. A casual observer is not a professional observer. So like I could be a casual observer of the economy. I'm not a professional observer. And then we have casual clothes, casual fans. Like if I'm a casual football fan, maybe I go to 3 or 4 matches per season. I'm not a serious fan. So casual is kind of the opposite of serious, professional. If we're talking about clothing, then вы можете одеваться небрежно. You can dress casually. Wear casual clothes. Dress casually. Okay, the next one. Спуск с горы может быть более опасным, чем подъем. Descending a mountain can be more dangerous than ascending. So, спуск is the descent. And подъем is the ascent. Actually, on aeroplanes, the pilot often does an announcement to say, "We are beginning our descent." Descent into... So, to descend, the phrasal verb is to go down. To go up, ascend, ascent. Next. У нас есть надувная лодка. We have an inflatable boat. Because to inflate is надуть. There's also a phrasal verb. I need to inflate this balloon. I need to blow up this balloon. So you can use inflate, you can use blow up. But the adjective is inflatable, an inflatable boat. And of course, there's also инфляция. Инфляция вышла из-под контроля. Inflation is out of control. I think it's the idea that money is being blown into the economy. And the economy is going... or the amount of money in the economy is going like this, which creates inflacja, inflation. There's too much money in the economy. It's not making people richer. Next one. В принтере закончились чернила. The printer has run out of ink. So, чернила is ink. Look, ink, 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 ink. Open your mouth. Don't say ink. Ink. Ink with the ink sound. Tip of your tongue behind your bottom teeth. Ink, ink. It's run out of ink. The next one. У него есть частный самолет. He has a private jet. So a jet is a word for самолет, but not only, because if I put in here jet of, and then collocates and nouns, let's see what I can find. So you can have a jet of water, which I think is struja, like it's powerful. It comes from a hose, schlang. A jet of water spurted out of the hose. There, is szlanga, struja wody, a jet of water. You can have a jet of air. Jet air. A jet of air. And that might be why jets are called jets, because they put out, emit a jet of air behind them. That might be why they're called jets. I don't know. But a jet is this struja. Jet. The next one. Я уверен, что поблизости есть дорога. I'm sure that there's a road nearby. So if you want to use the phrase поблизости, you can just put nearby at the end of the sentence. There's a beach nearby. But you can't use nearby in the middle of a sentence. So, there is a beach near my house. But you can't say, there is a beach nearby my house. That's wrong. Delete that. We only use nearby at the end of the sentence. There's a road nearby. There's a beach nearby. Nearby. The next one. Выберите 3 случайных числа. Choose 3 random numbers. Random. I think this random is a word Russian is lacking, and maybe that's why people have started saying рандомно. Because случайно, it can be unintentional, and it can be random, but they're different. Unintentional, ненамеренно, без намерения. Somebody wrote a comment to me. I clicked on your channel unintentionally. Oops, unintentionally. That's wrong. I clicked on your channel unintentionally means I wanted to click on another channel, but I clicked yours by accident. But randomly means I wasn't looking for it, but I found it. So randomness is when we're not looking for something. And unintentionally is when we're not trying to do something. The meanings are close, but they're different. And Russian случайно doesn't differentiate between these concepts. So here, жюри было выбрано случайным образом. The jury was chosen randomly. So they weren't trying to choose a particular jury. It was completely random. There was no plan. Maybe randomly, so randomly equals no plan, whereas unintentionally, accidentally equals not what I meant to do. So if it's unintentional or accidental, there was a plan and the plan didn't work out. Something like that. All right, next one. Почему ты так на меня смотришь? Why are you staring at me? This is another word that Russian lacks, in my opinion. To stare. This is to stare. Смотреть. Так. Почему ты так на меня смотришь? Staring. We sometimes say, it's rude to stare. No, невежливо так смотреть. Так смотреть. And the last word in this part of the lesson, слезы текли по ее щекам. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. Tears. 2 sounds. Tears. 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 You can say tears if you want. Tears were streaming or tears were streaming. Both are correct. Tears were screaming. tears were screaming. Tears, 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 tears. It's the same. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. Tears, слезы, tears. So that is another set of 10 words. Press pause, review the words from this part of the lesson, then come back and watch the next part. And moving on, number 571. Эта ошибка оказалась дорогостоящей. It proved to be a costly mistake. What else can be costly? Obviously, you know the word cost, but perhaps you don't use the word costly in everyday speech. So let's find some collocations that you can try to use yourselves. So number one is a costly mistake. You can also talk about costly war. I think war is always costly. There's a human cost and a financial cost. And what else? Litigation is costly. Litigation is going to court. It's the legal process, and it's very costly. Yes. This is costly equipment. So the word costly can be like expensive, but expensive is always about money, whereas costly isn't only about money. It also includes other costs. Let's move on to the next one. Если я им не нужен, я найду работу в другом месте. If they don't want me, I'll find a job elsewhere. Elsewhere. So elsewhere is another way to say somewhere else. I hope you know this phrase. I'll ask someone else. Я спрошу у другого, у кого-нибудь еще. Or I'll look for something else. I'll go somewhere else. So we can put else at the end of sentences, but when we use where, we also have this word elsewhere. I'll find a job elsewhere. Moving on. Он жил в чудовищном доме. Чудовищный дом. He lived in a monstrous house. So, I'm sure you know the word monster. It's a cartoon about monsters. So that's the noun, but the adjective is monstrous. He looked monstrous. Он выглядел чудовищно. Monstrous. Just remember, in Russian you've got this big O, monster, monstrous. In English it's clipped. Monstrous. Monstrous. Okay, the next one. Это займет детей на некоторое время. This will occupy the kids for a while. A while should be 2 words in this context. I'm sure you know that we can use occupy when we talk about armies. For example, Germany occupied northern France during World War II. And we can talk about the occupation of northern France. The occupation. But you can also occupy a person, which is a bit like entertain. This will keep the kids occupied. And when we talk about a person's occupation, it's another way to say their job. So, this is his occupation. It's his job. And there's another interesting phrase with occupy in it, and that казалась озабоченной. Like she was a bit worried, a bit stressed, like her mind was somewhere else. She seemed preoccupied. So she was here, but it's like her mind had another occupation. She seemed preoccupied, or something else was occupying her mind at the time. Now let's look at the next one. Я репетитор, I'm a tutor, и у меня 10 учеников. I'm a tutor, and I have 10 pupils. Now, regarding this word pupils, there was a time when all школьники were pupils. Nowadays, I would say this word is more limited to repetitorство. So, actually, a lot of people have private tutors now. More and more parents are paying for private tutors for their children, partly because I think education is getting worse. So these private tutors are required, but private tutors have pupils. But школьники we usually just call school kids. So if you work in a school, you can talk about pupils, but we don't do it so often. But if it's one-to-one, we always call them pupils. It's not old-fashioned. It's okay. Maybe in America it's old-fashioned. In Britain it's not an old-fashioned word. We still use this word. Pupil. And remember, lots of aspiration. Pupil. Pupils. Next. Гордыня. Один из 7 смертных грехов. Грех. Pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. Just remembering this word, it's lots of n. We don't need a lot of I, we need a lot of n. Sins. One of the 7 deadly sins. Грех, sin. This is quite fun. He's a sinner. Значит, он грешник. He's a singer. Он певец. This is a good way to practice that ng sound. You should be able to differentiate, отличать, sinner and singer. Sinner, tip of the tongue goes up. Sinner, sinner. Singer, singer. The tip of the tongue goes down. Sinner, singer. 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 Sinner, singer, sinner, singer. Oh, it worked. Yes. You try it. Next. Как-нибудь мы доберемся туда. We will get there somehow. Somehow. Как-нибудь доберемся. Somehow. And this one. Я уверен, что мы когда-нибудь встретимся снова. I'm sure we'll meet again sometime. So, you probably know that sometimes is иногда. I sometimes go shopping there. Иногда. I'll go shopping there sometime. Когда-нибудь. And I spent some time shopping there. Какое-то время, какой-то период времени. So, sometimes иногда, sometime, когда-нибудь, and some, пробел, time, 2 слова, какое-то время. Let's move on. Кончик вашего языка должен касаться зубов. Кончик. The tip of your tongue has to touch your teeth. So, tip. Let's look at some other words that often come after tip. Tip of. Nouns. Let's have a look. So, the most common one, it's only the tip of the iceberg. Кончик. Oi. I can't remember the Russian word for iceberg. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, though. Iceberg. The tip of the iceberg. It means that there's a big problem underneath, and what we can see is only the tip. Кончик. So a tip, it's that bit. It's the pointy bit. Anything pointy. Tip of my nose. Tip of my tongue. Tip of my finger. tip, it's pointy. And here, они приехали с полным песка грузовиком и высыпали песок в яму. What does that mean? They came with a truck full of sand and they tipped it into the hole. So you can tip. When you tip something, you change the angle until something comes out. Now, the easiest way to think of this word is about a bottle. You know, a bottle has the top of the bottle is like a tip. And when you tip the bottle, when you take the tip and you point it down, the water comes out. So you tip out the water. I don't think Russian has this verb. To tip. So to tip is to change the angle until something falls out. So here it's a tipper truck because it's at this angle and you tip the truck, you move the tip down and you tip out the sand. So that's tip. And actually sometimes we call svalka the tip because it's the place where everything is tipped out. We also use the word tip when we talk about чаевые. Я оставил щедрые чаевые. I left a generous tip. Where does this come from? I think it comes from to tip your cap. So to tip your cap is a mark of respect. And I guess that the idea of leaving money is a little bit like the idea of tipping your cap to somebody, showing your respect to the waiter or waitress. I guess that's where it comes from, to leave a tip. Tip your cap. Touch the tip of your cap. I think that's the idea. Он дал мне несколько полезных советов. They are also tips. He gave me some useful tips. I'm not sure why советы is tips, but it's quite useful because you probably know that advice in English is uncountable, so you can't say an advice, and you definitely can't say some advices. That's a horrible mistake, but you can say some tips. Some good tips. I've got some good tips for you. Несколько хороших полезных советов. Some tips. So that's useful. You can use it if you want to talk about советы. And the last one, 580 in this part of the lesson. Я пойду туда, куда ты мне скажешь. I will go wherever you tell me. Wherever you tell me, I will go. Whatever you want, I will give you. Whenever you need me, I'll be there. However you look, you'll be beautiful. It doesn't matter. Wherever, whatever, whenever, however, it doesn't matter. Any place, any time, anybody, doesn't matter. Wherever, whenever, whoever. Whoever comes will be made welcome. Doesn't matter who comes, they will be welcome. Whoever, that's another one. So that's another set of 10 words. Press pause, review the words, repeat all the sentences, you need to say them, and then watch the next part of the lesson. Part 4. Number 581. Теперь у нас достаточно средств, чтобы начать нашу экспедицию. Important word. We now have adequate funds to begin our expedition. As you can see, adequate and адекватный are false friends. In English, adequate means enough. If something's adequate, it's enough. If something is inadequate, it's not enough. So, неадекватный is something else. Here we're talking about enough and not enough. There's also an adverb. Квартира была прилично обставлена. Обставлена достаточно хорошо. The apartment was adequately furnished. Where's my voice typing? The apartment was adequately furnished. And when you pronounce the qu, just make sure adequately, make sure your mouth is open. Qu. If your mouth's closed, you'll get kv. You need to have an open mouth. Qu, qu, qu. Adequately, adequate, qu. Look, there's a gap between my teeth. Qu, 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 qu. Adequately furnished. It was adequately, qu, qu, qu. Adequately furnished. But if it was not, something was not adequate, then inadequate. Добровольцы были недостаточно подготовлены. The volunteers were inadequately trained. Inadequately. Inadequate, inadequately. And let's have a quick look at some inadequate followed by a noun. Let's have a look. So, an inadequate response. The government's response to the disaster was inadequate. It was not good enough. It did not meet the people's needs. We've already talked about inadequate training, inadequate funding, not enough funds, not enough training, not enough education, inadequate education, inadequate information, not enough information. So inadequate means not enough. I felt inadequate. That means I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt inadequate. Okay, next. У меня есть кое-какие новости, которые вас позабавят. I've got some news that will amuse you. Ooh, I like this sentence because it's got the word news, amuse, and you in it. So it's a great sentence for practicing the ooh sound. You probably want to say ooh, something like news, news. But it's not you, it's ooh. So we start with an and we finish with a w. News. So it's ny. I write it like this. Ny. Ny. Mouth open a little bit. News. And then we close it with z. News that will amuse. Same sound. Amuse you. News amuse you. Ooh, 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 ooh. News that will amuse you. Try to get lots of w into the sentence. Some news that will amuse you. Она знает несколько забавных историй. She knows some amusing stories. She knows some amusing stories. That's better. Second time lucky. Amusing. Number 583. Давайте рассмотрим проблему под другим углом. Let's consider the problem from a different angle. Try again. Let's consider the problem from a different angle. So you probably know the word corner, the corner of the room, the corner of the square, corner, ugle. A corner is a special kind of angle. It's 90 degrees. That's a corner. But an angle can be any ugle. 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 45 degrees, etc. So an angle is any ugle. But a corner is 90 degrees. Прямой угол. Put the pieces together to make a right angle. A right angle. The next one. Вчера было объявлено об их помолвке. Their engagement was announced yesterday. Объявлено, announced. Here, hold the n, a, w, unst, announced. The ow is clipped before the unst at the end. Announced. Announced. Actually, the w should be with the n. Announced. Announced. Announced yesterday. And мы ждем официального объявления. We are waiting for an official announcement. Announce. Long n, very short, clipped. Ow. Announced. Announced. Announcement. Next. Я обрезал видео, потому что оно было слишком длинным. I clipped the video because it was too long. So to clip something is to make it shorter. You might clip your fringe. That's pszczolka. To clip. I clipped it. I clipped the video. I like the word clipped because we clip the vowel in the word clip. So in clipped, which is clipped, the I is clipped. We call it clipping. This is vowel clipping. Clipped. It's made shorter. It's clipped. Clip the video. Clip the vowel. Вот несколько отрывков из фильма. Вот отрывок это a clip. Here are some clips from the film. Remember to clip the word clip. The next one. Он схватил меня за руку. He grabbed my arm. Oh, we missed he. He grabbed my arm. Here the a is not clipped because it comes before a voiced zvonky b. Grabbed. Grabbed. A full a with a smile. A. Grabbed my arm. He grabbed it. Grabbed. Next. Она настроена против меня. She is prejudiced against me. I think this word comes from the idea of prejudge. So she judged me. She judges me before she knows me. She prejudges me. She's prejudiced against me. Activists are fighting against racial prejudice. So what's racial prejudice? It's when people judge other people from another race before they get to know them. Prejudge, prejudice. The next one. Эти две встречи будут проведены одновременно. Одновременно? These two meetings will be held simultaneously. Simultaneously. A long word. Make sure the te is the longest syllable. Simultaneously. The other syllables we pronounce really fast. Yisly. But te is long. Simultaneously. Simultaneously. The next one. Старое дерево было расколото прямо посередине. Split. The old tree was split right down the middle. The old tree was split right down the middle. There's a popular dessert in England. Banana split. Where you split a banana and then you put chocolate inside and then you bake it. And the chocolate all melts into the banana. It's good. Banana split. Организация распалась после раскола между лидерами. Раскол. The organization collapsed after a split between the leaders. And we can also talk about a group like the Beatles split up in 1964. Or a relationship. Andy and Emma split up last week. Расстались. Раскол. Split. And the last word in this part of the lesson, у нее более миллиона подписчиков. She has more than 1 million subscribers. More than 1 million subscribers. I would like to have more than 1 million subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I really want to get one of those silver YouTube things that they give to people with lots of subscribers. It would be so cool. So help me get there. Click subscribe. So in subscribe, we've got the I vowel, subscribe. But in the noun, подписка, subscription, we've got a clipped Я хотел бы отменить свою подписку. I would like to cancel my subscription. Clipped. Subscription. Okay, that's another set of 10. So, time to press pause, time to review the words, maybe time to take a break, maybe time to come back tomorrow, or if this lesson is just in the background of your life, then feel free to watch on and I'll talk about the next set of 10. Moving on, number 591. В книгах много страшных зверей. Зверь. In the books, there are lots of terrifying beasts. So, it's interesting. Often people think E is a long sound. Это же длинный E. E. Но не всегда, because beasts, it's short. The E is short because it comes before an unvoiced sound. Beasts. It's not long at all. I would say we just go straight from but to краткое, if you can. Beasts. Without even pronouncing an E. Beasts. Can you hear it? You're almost going straight from the but to the s. Beasts. Alright, that was beasts. More s. Beasts. Not a lot of vowel. Next. Крайний срок сдачи вашей курсовой работы был вчера. Try again. The deadline. Where's my голосовой ввод текста gone? The deadline. Wrong language. The deadline for your coursework was yesterday. Deadline. The stress, remember, it's not deadline. It's deadline. The deadline. Now here we can't stretch a d. So what do? We have a bigger pause before it to put the stress on that syllable. The deadline. So for example, the department, the department, there's no stress on the first syllable. So I say the department, but the deadline, there's a big pause. The deadline, the department, the deadline, the department, the deadline. So we get a big pause to mark the stress, not the deadline. No, the deadline. So we mark the stress with a pause. The deadline. Now the next word, не отчаивайтесь. Don't despair. This word begins with a d, but the first syllable is not stressed, so there's no pause before the d. Here we get the pause before the p. Don't despair. Despair. Don't despair. And interestingly, the pair actually sounds more like bear, because after a s, we don't aspirate the p. It's not spare, it's despair. Bear. It really does sound like b. Don't despair. Don't pause, bear. Despair. Don't despair. But if we say отчаянный, then the stress moves. Мы находимся в отчаянном положении. We're in a desperate situation. Now the stress is on the first syllable, so we're in a big pause, desperate. We say it more like that. Desperate situation. It's desperate. 2 syllables. Desperate. A desperate. And the longer the pause, the more the stress. A desperate situation. Я был отчаянно расстроен. I was desperately upset. And here are some more things that can be отчаянный. Desperately, for example, they are desperately poor. Or, I was desperately afraid. Or, we are desperately short of time. Крайне мало времени. I was desperately unhappy. So if you want to sound sophisticated and clever, instead of saying really or very before negative adjectives, try desperately. Sophisticated word. Okay, the next one. Город быстро расширяется. The city is expanding rapidly. Expanding. Long n before the d. Expanding rapidly. Expanding. Во все стороны. Expanding. Местные жители выступают против расширения аэропорта. The noun. Local residents are opposed to the expansion of the new airport. Now we have n before an unvoiced глухой sh. So it's expansion. Expansion. And actually the x becomes like x. And now we have s before p. So the p becomes a b. And we get expansion. 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 With a b. Pause. Expansion. Expansion. The expansion of the new airport. Okay, next. В какой степени вы согласны с этим утверждением? To what extent do you agree with this statement? В какой степени? And we can answer with adjective extent. We can say to a certain extent. Wait, try again. I agree to a certain extent. Это значит не полностью. I agree to a great extent. But not completely. I agree to a lesser extent than the previous statement. So I agree with this statement to a lesser extent. I agree to a limited extent. Not unlimited. No, limited. You get the idea. And there's also this phrase, the extent of the. Or the extent of. So we can put in extent here. And collocates. Oi, oi, oi. Not that one. Nouns. And what do we get? The extent of the damage. Or problem. Or involvement. It would be the extent of my involvement in something. No, степень, I think. It's probably степень in these cases. And you can also say, the full extent of my power. Все, что в моей силе. The full extent of my power. The next one. Это был неурожайный год. It was a lean year. A lean year. And we use this word lean to mean not fatty, not abundant. It's the opposite of abundant. Lean. So if we put in nouns, then you can say his lean body. So his lean body is not a fatty body. lean meat is not fatty meat. But lean, we went through lean times. That means when there was not a lot of food to eat. Lean times. The next one. Мой психолог помог мне преодолеть мой страх. My psychologist helped me to overcome my fear. So you can overcome fear, преодолеть. What are some other things that we often overcome? Let's have a look. For this, we'll need collocates. So you can... We overcame many obstacles. She overcame many barriers and challenges. He had to overcome adversity and stiff resistance. So overcome, преодолеть. The next one, все присутствуют. Everyone is present. That's quite an easy word. I'm not sure why it's here. Maybe it's more like number 200. But here it is. Я нервничал в присутствии короля. I felt nervous in the king's presence. So, presence can be присутствие. There's also a nice phrase. He showed great presence of mind. And presence of mind means it's something like being шустрый. He quickly found a solution. He used his mind and quickly found a solution, a way out of a difficult situation. So that's presence of mind that can get you out of a difficult situation. The next phrase, мы ищем сокровища. We're looking for treasure. Treasure. I like this word because the way we pronounce it is nothing like the way it's written. Treasure. It has a sh sound and a z sound. Treasure. Treasure. Your tongue hardly moves. Treasure. Treasure. And it's also a verb. Я буду дорожить этим письмом. I will treasure this letter. I will hold it in my heart. I will treasure those words. I will treasure the memory. So to value, to really value something is to treasure it. And the last word, у меня много странных друзей. I have lots of weird friends. Now, people seem to find this word difficult to pronounce. I like this phrase. Ian has a weird beard. So this name Ian, okay, it has the ear sound, like in idea, right? Idea. And that's the sound in weird and beard. So weird, it's not difficult to pronounce it correctly if you open your mouth. If you don't, wird. Yeah, you will say v. It's weird. Weird. Open your mouth, everything will be fine. Weird. Weird. A weird beard. Весь секрет. The secret is to open your mouth. Weird. Okay, that's all. 600 words. Woo! Well done for getting this far. Thank you for watching the whole video. I hope it's been very useful for you. Please remember to click like if you liked it and leave a comment too. I read all the comments and they are very motivating to me. So please do write a comment if you feel like doing so. But the main thing is, come back and watch the next video when you're ready. But before that, repeat some of the words. It really will help you to remember them. All right, bye then.